5.
Are we? I told the guy, I said, leave me alone, I got a show to do.
I gotta get some ice. Oh, fuck,
I don't
cameras.
have my hat.
Where's your head at?
It's in the other room.
We'll go get it.
Right. Well, we can't both leave.
No, I'm not leaving yet. You go do your thing.
If we both leave, then it'll be fucked.
Armand's camera, but he doesn't have a fucking tripod. Now, where's the tripod?
John Jacob Jingleheimer Schmidt. His name is my name too.
I gotta find a tripod for this. Actually, I guess I could set it.
There's this right here.
Look at that though, it doesn't have a connection.
Oh yeah, that ain't where the fuck, huh?
How about this?
Is that gonna work?
Oh, we'll have to sit it down to find out. Da, 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 da.
I'm in line at Lowe's. Oh. Get some 2x4s for me. All right.
Guest shows are usually pretty good,
Oh, thank you.
she says.
Oh, she. Oh.
How did Wooter know that Armand was the guest?
Wow. Thank you.
I said Armand will be joining this today.
Somebody
You've got
recognized
quite-
me.
You've got quite a following.
Ah.
I know who you are.
They know who you are.
Don't give my address. Well,
One guy even said Armand or get the fuck out.
all right. I love him. Here.
Yeah.
In fact, what do I need you guys for? Why don't you two go take a vacation? Yeah, I'll discuss this.
Peace.
I need no assistance.
This is good stuff.
Goes for Tony Hubert, too, wherever he is.
He was on our
Yeah, I heard you guys.
Bigfoot episode.
Yeah, which one?
The Bigfoot Sasquatch Super
Oh
Show.
yeah, he's got a heart on about that one. I don't.
He was into it.
Mm-hmm. Almost infantile fascination.
Yeah.
Submit him to
I
my.
actually work with a guy that's like that too. Just absolutely loves Bigfoot, Yeti, Sasquatch, the entire thing.
Right, right.
It's not that he doesn't even care if it's true or not. He's so
No,
into
it doesn't
the
matter.
entire
The whole.
deal, loves it.
Did you ever see that movie? Was it with the? Was it Peter Cushing? One of those British guys. We have to get that one. He Well, what's Yeti's other name?
Sasquatch.
The abominable snowman.
The abominable snowman. Yeah. Yeah. Sasquatch is Bigfoot.
Scott
Yeah.
says he's giving it a 9 just because Armand is here.
Oh, already? Gee, well, I hope I can live up to this.
Damn.
Hello.
Well, I wonder if our friend in South Carolina's listening.
That was who said it.
Oh, okay. Oh, geez. All right. Yeah, we say hello to him all the time on our history show.
Oh, history show. No, that's a different guy he's talking about, not Scott.
Oh.
Scott. Different one. I know who you're talking about.
Yeah.
Why am I lagging here? What the fuck's going on?
Scott,
I've been watching, man. We got a
8 now, but why am I?
a fucking hell of a crowd today.
were you a passenger?
Okay.
Yeah, you guys got a good following. I'll tell you that.
Oh, it's not because of us. It's because of
good subjects.
we put subliminal messages in here. It's been
That's what it is.
This has been a CIA experiment. We've been.
It's a psyop the whole time, man. We've
Yeah,
been
we've
MK Ultraing right through these microphones.
Have
to
you guys ever done a show on the Council of Foreign Relations?
Not even a little.
That'll get you killed.
Yeah, well,
Yeah. Listen.
That'll get you
them and
killed.
the International Monetary Fund. Yeah, go ahead and talk
yeah,
about
that one.
too.
Try that one too.
Good idea.
You got a death wish there, Mr.
Right.
Bronson?
I don't. I really don't. Jack, man, that's kind of loud. Do I sound loud to you?
Yes,
You're always loud.
you're hot, as they
Thank you.
say.
Hot.
No, you're-
HAWT hot.
I wonder if it's just these things might be turned up too much. Check 1 2. Check. Is that better for you, Armand? Is that doing anything? Is it gone?
Of course, I know who S. Seegers is. Yeah.
Check 1 2.
That's Scott. Yeah, that's the guy
Yeah,
that said Armand. Yeah.
You're right. Scott.
So you were
yeah.
right, Scott. He knew exactly who you were.
All right, I've flattened everybody's headsets out.
Sounds good to me.
How do you sound? Is that fine?
I can talk completely monotone the whole time. I won't
water,
have a problem
water
with that. It'll be
everywhere.
just fine.
Nor any drop to drink. What's that mean?
That's a clap test. Make
clap
sure that
test,
the
sir.
sounds with the video.
You don't want to have the clap and go online.
Yeah. You don't want to put yourself out there with the clap.
No,
man.
that's all right. I'm
You know what we're talking about, Armand. You know
suffering
yeah.
from acute celibacy these days. But we won't go into that. We'll save that for the next
Non-voluntary celibacy.
dream
Son of a bitch.
episode. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that Council on Foreign Relations would be a good one.
Oh,
What was
yeah.
the other one Tony and I were? Well, have you guys done Jack the Ripper?
I think we talked about him in our serial killer episode, but we
Okay.
didn't do a full
Yeah,
episode
yeah.
about him. Yeah.
Some people think it was the Prince of Wales. I read a book.
Really?
Yeah, it's got
Prince
pretty.
is a whale.
Prince of Wales. Yeah, which would have been, I guess, at that time. Who would it have been? Edward the Seventh, I guess.
You know, I just posted a video in the group the other day of the entire genealogy of the royal family, the
Yeah.
bloodlines, and that is weird, dude. It's like there's so much incest involved in
Oh,
that.
yeah,
And like the rules that how they
Wiener,
pick
wiener,
the
wiener.
monarchs are crazy. So like, well, now it's different. In 2013, they changed it, but before that, if you was a girl, if you had a brother, you weren't shit.
Right,
Oldest
yeah.
brother's the best.
Of course.
You know. Other than that, though, second brother gets the
Yeah,
crown.
that's called Salic law.
Is that what that is?
Yeah, SALIC.
But
yeah.
the thing was, so like if the guy died with no male heirs
No
or whatever,
heirs.
it would revert back a generation and then skip over and go down.
Whatever they would do.
Yeah,
but,
it was.
But I mean, like you had Queen Anne, who was, I believe,
Who had,
James II's
her
sister.
revenge eventually.
Well,
Waka Waka.
that's Blackbeard, right?
It's a ship.
Blackbeard's ship, correct. Queen Anne's. Yeah, she didn't get her rent. She had like 17 kids. None of them reached maturity. They all died in infancy
man.
or yeah.
I can't get my computer to connect up to Wi-Fi.
Did not have
I
one
couldn't
kid.
I got to reboot.
So that's why we got the Georges, instead of because Queen Anne was House of Stuart, and then you got George.
You are a very learned individual,
Habsburgs.
man.
Yeah,
You,
well,
you know,
no,
I was just telling
Saxe-Coburg
Everett about that
Gotha.
earlier. I was like, dude, Armand knows a lot of shit.
Oh well.
You know, I mean, he does.
And good stuff, too.
yeah. Well,
Well,
yeah.
I like you know me. I like the perverse stuff. I don't like it too dry.
He's like, I'm not saying I don't know who Mia Khalifa is. See, he got it.
Yeah, I got it.
He knew right who she was.
Hey, did we
like
pass
Scandal.
the clap test? Did you notice who I said?
I didn't know.
Yeah, we don't actually check it ourselves now. It's up to you guys. So
Scott asked, does this day in history have T-shirts?
Not yet. No, we haven't arrived yet. Not like you guys.
we don't have
You have a
shirts.
whole box.
God damn it! Shh. Be killed.
Oh, I get it now. Scott was wanting to know about the shirts because
Yeah.
Now, where's Scott? Scott is in South Carolina. Is that?
See.
Yes. Yeah, South Carolina, right?
When's he gonna
Nope.
come visit us?
I don't know.
I told him he should come up here, but there's nothing cool here.
Yeah, I know. I don't blame
What's
him.
cool in St. I mean, really, you got the arts.
I
Arts
know,
is
I don't
all right.
blame
There's
him.
really nothing in fucking
Yeah,
St. Louis. that's
Tony was
cool.
making that point the other day on our show. That, well, if the weather were like this all the time, we'd have land values similar to California. I said, "Are you nuts? What? Because it's 75 degrees, somebody's gonna come to St. Louis?"
Right. There's nothing here.
Yeah, I think he overrates our city.
There's, I
This
mean,
is a dive. I went down to South Carolina last month though, in July actually. We had a good time.
yeah. What'd you do down there?
Had barbecue.
Oh, I love barbecue.
No
Yes.
one I know, I hope.
A friend went. No, this was pork, pulled pork bar, whatever. I don't know. It was very good in Greenville.
What is this horse shit? Okay. Now
Did
I've
your
got
computer boot
internet.
back up or what?
I think I've got internet now. Okay, I do. I had to connect to my cell phone for whatever reason. I couldn't connect to the Wi-Fi. I'm gonna have to get a hold of the motherfucker who controls that on Monday. Me.
Yeah, I think that.
And bitch slap him.
Oh.
All right, I got to get the document up. Did you get that shit in order later on?
No, I did not. I just figure we'll do a good job of the way it is.
Oh boy. Sorry in advance.
No, it just completely makes it look like you're putting that on me when I've typed the entire doc out.
I have been super busy doing all kinds of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, look. Give it a couple more minutes, see if anybody joins us. Nobody gives a shit about the Titanic.
Always trustworthy. Huh.
Who?
I don't know. I read a book.
Oh,
I guess-
she's giving you shit.
Oh, I think-
because you were like, I
yes.
read a book.
Yeah.
And she's like, I read a book. That's always trustworthy.
Right. Well, trust me. Yeah. Good point. I guess could have been fictionalized. And then
It likely was.
we were talking about the guy. Was it H.H. Holmes, the guy at the Columbia Exposition, Chicago, the guy that killed all those women in 1893?
You got me. I don't know.
He had acid baths and everything. Oh, this guy did it right. Yeah, he had this house like just a torture chamber, and he would get these women that were coming to Chicago for the Columbian Exposition. The guy was an M.D., and he'd invite them to his house and put them in
Mad Duck.
acid baths and just chew them up.
Dude, have you ever seen the show Dexter? You're watching that. Oh man, I was trying to explain to a guy at work the other day how just phenomenally awesome that fucking show is. You know what I mean? It's just like perfect. Like that show's excellent.
Oh, that's why it's got pretty
it's-
fervent following.
Yeah, it's a great show. And he's like, "Wait a minute, you mean to tell me that guy works for the cops and he kills people?" I'm like, "Yeah, dude, it's great. It's great."
That was a good show.
I thought so.
Why the fuck can I not connect to this Wi-Fi? It's pissing me off.
That's why my clock was fucked up because it wouldn't let me connect to the Wi-Fi either. But I got it though. Just restart. Hit
I did.
refresh. Do you need me to teach you how to do this?
Fuck you. I just wanted to print some shit, but oh well. Fuck it. Fuck it. We'll dog right into it live.
Oh, wow.
What's that from?
Bill O'Reilly.
It says somebody said Lauren says that DiCaprio's playing Holmes in a movie. I didn't know that.
I neither. Dexter ended horribly though.
Yeah, torture rooms, exactly. He had all that, like I said, acid baths and like a dungeon, and this guy did it right. Yep, at the Columbian Exposition.
We'll have to do that next
1893.
month. That sounds like a good show.
H.H. Holmes, yeah. I was going to write a script about him, but somebody already did a movie about him, so it's a little late. I guess they're doing another one.
I guess so.
What you drinking on over there, Armand?
It's
Is this one of your concoctions?
Powerade with a little of my green stuff. Yes.
Not marijuana.
Oh, so
No,
you put
no.
weed in it?
No.
Oh. Wow.
You guys almost ready?
Yeah.
I'm ready.
I was born ready.
Were you?
No, not really. I was born naked and cold and crying.
He learned by using rats and acid while in prison. I didn't know that. That's an interesting fact.
Yeah. Scott says, Eric, you rang?
I'm have to read that book again. In fact, I have it on my Kindle. I don't know.
We can't see Armand. Oh. Why can't we see Armand?
Oh, I got my. Yeah, I don't know if anybody really minds that.
No, no one.
How's that?
I don't know. But I don't know if it's going to be good for the ratings.
Well, what he was saying here was thank you.
Yeah, right. Obscure his face some more, please. Now turn off his mic.
No. We're having you in here because you know stuff. Yeah.
Well, these are a couple of. This is near and dear to my heart. Federal Reserve and
Oh yeah.
how the bankers control this country. This show is long overdue.
No, you talk to it about everybody. They'll tell you you're retarded though.
Ever doesn't believe this?
Well, he just doesn't like to talk about it. Whether he believes
Wow.
it or not, I don't know. But he doesn't want to talk about how the bankers control the world. He doesn't want
This
to
is a
talk about the
conspiracy, boy,
Rothschilds.
I'll
He
tell you
doesn't talk
that.
about that stuff.
I'm not paying attention to you.
Well, they may be using some sort of paranormal engine to do this. Of course, you never know. I mean, what do you guys think about Bitcoin? I love it.
I don't know a lot
And that
about
other
it.
one. What's that other one? There are a couple of them.
There's a billion of them.
Yeah, but
Do you get any? Do you invest in something?
Blood
I wish I
coin,
had. I mean, I
unicorn
could have got in when it was like $300. You know, 300. Now it's like 3,000.
coin.
A guy I work with, he bought like Alex, actually, a guy, former guest on the show. He bought, I can't remember the exact numbers, but he ended up with 25 grand when he checked it 5 years later. Yeah, he only spent like $50, and
Well,
he ended up with like
did you
$25,000.
see that? There was
or
a story
something like
about
that.
this guy that bought it like at the very base at the beginning. And I guess now, of course, E would know more of this than I would, but it's in your computer, I guess, it's in your hard drive or whatever. He threw the hard drive away.
Oh, they had the wallet.
Yeah, it had that in his computer, and it was worth like $8 million because he's Englishman.
Wow.
And there's all these people that
Yeah,
are
they-
foraging through the
They wanna go to the
garbage.
dump to find
Yeah.
that hard drive.
Somebody find it?
I don't know, but it was worth $8 million if they did.
I think that's one.
Or 8
it's
million
classified
pounds.
under urban legend.
Oh, you think so?
I think so.
I'd buy it. I'm stupid.
What are you doing?
They didn't find it yet?
Oh, you're out of here.
I think he thinks it's fake. Yeah, right.
He's gonna
give,
swim
give him
across
the
the pond.
address of
Yeah.
the.
All right, you guys ready?
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
You're listening to Surreal Talk, a look inside the world of cults, conspiracies, and the paranormal.
Something's not right, man. Something's not right. Something's bullshit here, and I don't believe it.
Honestly, this crazy shit could be completely possible.
Disclaimer, we reserve the right to be wrong, ladies and gentlemen. You think you know the whole story? Think again.
Now your hosts, Eric and Everett.
rather abrupt ending, wasn't it?
I think so. We are back. Welcome to Surreal Talk, a look inside the world of cults, conspiracies, and the paranormal, a lineupmedia.fm production. How you guys doing this week?
Hey, what's up, everybody?
Wonderful. Yeah.
We have special guest Armand back with us, and I do emphasize special. He is a great. We always love having him on. He's full of information,
Special
man.
ed.
He's full of something, isn't he?
Hey, I
Yeah.
wasn't. I didn't mean it
Helium.
like that. That's funny though, but I didn't mean it like that.
No.
But so what do we got today, guys?
Today we are talking about something we've talked about before. Not really a Redux show because we only covered it in one of those. Was it an all over the place show that we talked about the Titanic?
We didn't hit
We're
it.
talking about the Titanic.
We're talking about the Titanic, yeah.
And the many myths and conspiracy theories surrounding it, from the Federal Reserve angle to the fact that it might not have been a Titanic at all. It was the Olympic that might have sunk. I guess that's pretty much all the angles we're going to cover.
Yeah, it's a pretty good one, though. So why don't we give a little bit of facts about the Titanic before we get started? It was 45,000 tons. That's hard to wrap your head around.
As big as your mom. Oh, wait.
That's your mom, too, isn't it?
Yeah.
That doesn't work.
It hit the iceberg on April 14th, 1912. There were roughly like 1,800 lives lost. It was owned by the White Star liner, which was owned by J.P. Morgan.
That's correct.
Right.
Which it was owned by IMM, International Merchant Marine.
Well, which was owned
Subsidiary of
which
J.P.
was owned
Morgan.
by J.P.
Right.
Morgan.
Which is interesting, though, because that same company owned other little companies that owned like the Lusitania and other such ships. So
Really?
There was a lot of competition. There wasn't really competition.
White Star. Wasn't Lusitania White Star Lines?
No, that was the Titanic.
Oh, I'm sorry. Cunard.
Cunard, yes.
Lusitania was Cunard. That's right. Yeah.
So the theory is they pulled the old switcheroo. You know, there were sister ships, the RMS Olympic and the RMS Titanic, both.
And Britannic.
Well, yeah, but these are the main two in this
Right.
one. But yeah, there was a third one in there, the Britannic.
Right.
But
So why would they have swapped them out? What was the
Yeah,
deal
that
with
was-
that?
well, the theory goes that the Olympic was heavily damaged from a prior wreck, and that it had
Right.
also thrown a propeller, I believe, like 4 months before the Titanic took off. So,
Hold on. Let's swerve here real quick already.
Uh-oh.
I don't like the way we're going at this direction. You know that timeline we found?
Yeah.
Let's just step through that timeline and discuss it that way, because I'm looking at it now. It would be a real good way to go, because it's got the keel number that starts off with the keel numbers of the hulls. You don't want to talk about the 400, 401?
Ah, yeah.
So let's start
I
there.
didn't put a lot of stock into that, though, that 401 and 400 number.
Now, this is Harlan and Wolff, right?
Well,
Belfast.
That's what they would have
people
called.
that
Right.
made it.
So it was built in Belfast by Harlan and Wolff, which
Correct,
was
yeah.
the shipbuilding company. Each ship was given a registration number. One was 400, which was the hull number for
Olympic.
the Titanic. No, the Olympic, right. And 401 was the Titanic's registration number. So every part, any part that was substantial, would have that number stamped into it.
Cabinets, stuff like that, hulls, the propellers, they all had the number coordinated with the ship.
All right. So December 16th, 1908 is whenever they did the hull number 400. That's when it started in Harlan and Wolff in Ireland. March 22nd, 1909 is whenever they did the 401, the Titanic, is when they started construction of that.
Right.
That's when the keel was actually numbered.
Okay.
So
I'm with you.
go ahead.
I was just going to say the 20th of October 1910, the RMS Olympic launched for its maiden voyage, but there was no christening ceremony, no champagne bottle broken across the.
That's kind of weird. If it's
Usually they do
because
that.
it was the biggest ship in the world at the time.
At the time, it was. It was
Right.
the biggest one, and they did
Yeah.
no
You would
christening.
think that Carol Lombard or somebody would,
Carol Lombard.
yeah, movie star, you know.
When? I guess
Long
I guess a
before
century
Carol
ago.
Lombard, yeah.
I guess a century ago.
No,
Anyway.
consult this date in history.
May of 1911, they fitted out of the Olympic is completed in Thompson Graving Dock, Harlan and Wolff Shipyard. Sea trials are completed by the end of the month.
So I guess they're ready to go. They're saying they're testing it for.
Well, they already
Ocean
did the
viability.
they already did the launch.
Yeah, but they're
date,
still shaking it down. It seems like at that point.
Well, so they said that the sea trials were completed by the end of the month, but we knew that the sea trials on the Titanic weren't what they should have been. They were supposed to have 2 full days of sea trials where you put the engine at full, all the way over. You gotta test the systems, right? So they do full
steam.
Yeah, there
so
you go.
to speak.
Full steam ahead. There you go.
Right.
So they do 2 days of sea
Ramming
trials.
speed.
And they did like a very short 1 day for the Titanic, the sea trials that they were supposed to do.
So this is curious to you, and the
Well,
fact that there was
if they did the
no
switcheroo,
fanfare.
if they did the switcheroo, that would be why they would do this. They don't want to get out there and figure out all the real shit that's wrong with this ship because they're trying to pass the Titanic off as the Olympic. You know what I mean? So that would be there was no major inspection.
And let's
done.
look at it this way: it was 7 months after it was launched that sea trials were completed for the Olympic. From its first launch in October to May of the next year is whenever the sea trials were completed. 7 months.
Yeah, how is that even okay?
So let's keep going. So May 31st of 1911, same month that the sea trials end on the Olympic, the Titanic is launched. It's slightly heavier and has more luxuries, but it's more or less identical. It's also billed at the time as the world's largest luxury liner. Let's see. The launch of the Titanic coincides with the acceptance. Wow. Oh no, it's one of those. With the acceptance ceremony of the Olympic by White Star Line officials. After Titanic's launching ceremony, Olympic sails for Liverpool, which is a port of registry but not the home port, with dignitaries aboard. The Titanic is towed to the Thompson graving dock to begin fitting out. Interesting. So next month, about 2 weeks later, the maiden voyage of the Olympic from Southampton, England to New York. So that's its first going out of an actual, we want people on it, we're taking you across the ocean to New York. At the time, those ships were pretty much thought they're going to be mostly for immigration, right? Well, a lot of the people on it were using it for immigration.
Sure, steerage. Well, of course, they had that steerage, and that was
right. White Star commissioned these ships because they wanted to make money. They weren't a big company.
Sure.
Well, they were a decent-sized company, but this was their entire pot.
Right. Although I think they made a lot more money on the luxury. Like one guy, like one John Jacob Astor,
Was worth 20.
with, 20. In the steerage department,
Right,
where
sure.
Jack and what's her name were making out in the car.
Rose.
I'm not a big fan of that movie. That's a conspiracy too.
Why? How so? What do you mean?
That it won the Academy Award.
Ah.
I'd like to go into that sometime.
So June 20th, a week after the maiden voyage of the Olympic, they liked how it was performing so much they went ahead and exercised their option to have a third ship built. So hull number 433 was started at what's the name of them again?
Harlan and Wolff.
Yeah, Harlan and Wolff Shipyard. So then the 20th of September, 2 months, 3 months later, it was involved with a collision off the Isle of Wight with the Royal Navy cruiser, the HMS Hawk.
That's Olympic, correct?
The Olympic,
The
right.
Olympic was,
Titanic
yeah.
wasn't even
So
sailing. Yeah.
the Hawk was a military vessel that had a ram built onto the front of it. It was under the water level. So here comes the Olympic through the port in the Isle of Wight.
Mm-hmm.
And it gets too close to this Hawk, to this ship, the HMS Hawk, and clips that thing, and it tears a big ass hole in it and hits it so hard. You should see the pictures of the Hawk.
They were huge. I mean,
If this was it's a podcast, so we can't show it. I guess we're doing it live on YouTube, so sorry. The HMS Hawk was completely fucking demolished.
the whole front of it was just snub nose, man. It was flattened in the front.
And it actually didn't do a giant hole.
Did they run into each other head on, or what?
No, it was a glancing blow.
Yeah, I think the one was
Similar to how the
this.
Titanic hit the
iceberg. Yeah, pretty
almost
much.
exactly the
Gosh,
same.
that's
grazing.
crazy.
Yeah, grazing blow.
Kind of what's happening to our Navy the last couple of months.
Yeah, we don't keep up
Hit
with
that
that.
Japanese. Well, they hit that Japanese ship, and you didn't see that?
No.
The destroyer hit the.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, like 12 people dead, and
I was not aware of
inquiry
that.
in the Navy. Yeah, that's 2 of them in the last couple months.
So it had to return all the way to Southampton on one engine after it.
It took 2 weeks though, sitting where it was at, all fucked up, for them to get just the steel on to get it returned back to dry dock.
But just dead in the water there.
Yeah, 2 weeks is what it took, just sitting there all fucked up. And the
Delayed it by some 3 weeks. Yep.
So that collision also really fucked up the Olympic to the point where it was not even able to really be repaired. Is what you would call a totaled car, a totaled vehicle. So
You bent your frame.
yeah, well, they figured that it broke the backbone of the ship, that collision. And whenever it hit, it actually sent like a pressure wave down the side of it.
So everything buckled, I guess.
Yeah, it popped thousands and thousands of rivets. Steel
the
plates
rivets.
were fucked up. They had to replace plates on the side of that ship like 2/3 of the way down, whenever really the damage, what you could see, was localized to the front. But they replaced the plates on almost the entire side of that ship because so much shit got
There
fucked
was a
up
lot
down
of
the line.
repairs done. When they showed like that diagram of like what actually was done to it, you know,
Right.
like the actual work order or whatever it was. When they showed that work order, it's like, holy shit, they damn near replaced the entire side of that boat.
And they had to pay for it too. And you got to figure too that they didn't do the best job in the world. They got it shipworthy or seaworthy as best as possible.
Right.
So, and another interesting thing about the collision with the Hawk was that it was ruled the fault of the Olympic.
Yeah.
So Lloyd's of London, who was the insurers of White Star at the time,
They were
basically said, we will not pay the insurance on this.
No
Not only
paying
are
out.
you liable for what happened to your ship, you are also liable for the damage to the Hawk. So at that point, White Star is fucked. They're going to go bankrupt. They can't afford to fix their ship and replace this Navy ship and still continue to do business. They got to figure out a way out of it.
Well, 4 months after the collision with the Hawk on February 21st, 1912, it threw
February
a propeller.
24th.
What?
Yeah, 24th of February.
Yeah, through a propeller blade after striking an underwater obstruction. Now, I looked at a couple places and I couldn't find exactly what that underwater obstruction was, but it returned again to Belfast for repairs and interrupted work on the Titanic.
Okay, so
again.
here's one point of contention people have with the myth that it was the Olympic and the Titanic. So the propeller they found at the on the bottom of the ocean where the Titanic was at is stamped 401,
Now
which is the keel number for the hull.
Lines up perfectly with the Titanic.
With the story. So the story here is that it threw a propeller, and to get this boat back in the water as quick as possible, the Titanic sitting close by, not ready to go out, they just steal the fucking propeller and pop it on.
Well, I mean, because they were virtually the same ship. So, I mean, it would make sense that would be okay.
Right.
But at the same time, though, why would they stamp the propellers 401 and 400 if they were interchangeable? If you got both these ships sitting side by side, the Titanic.
So you're saying they should have just a spare parts bin with extra propellers?
Well, I'm just saying what's the purpose in stamping them for different parts of the ship if they're going to be interchangeable at all? If these why even worry about making these propellers stamped or to go to the propeller house, get us a propeller. We need a propeller.
That's a good
We
question.
don't need a Titanic propeller
saying
or an
that
Olympic propeller. We need a propeller.
If they're interchangeable, there's no need to stamp them anyway.
Right, and the
because
official story
they
was
should
that they
theoretically
pulled the propeller off the starboard side of the Titanic and replaced the one that hit
What
the
if it was just
obstruction.
protocol? They got the work order, propeller for Titanic. Okay, this one's done. It's 401 and goes
Then
with
they
this work
stamped it
order
there. That
and send
could've
it
been
on.
they stamped it
I mean, it's
there.
just as simple as protocol.
I mean,
Stamp it. It goes with this order. Put the paper on it. Send it out.
That very
you know?
well could be.
But-
But that's part of that's what makes people ask these questions.
Did they
is
use that
stuff
propeller?
right
Yeah.
there?
Anyway,
Yes.
going on after the propeller blade throw and the replacement.
April 10th, 1912, the maiden voyage.
About a month and a half later.
Yeah, the maiden voyage of the Titanic from Southampton to New York. As she proceeds down the river Test, the suction from the larger Titanic pulls the moored New York towards her, much like when the Olympic pulled the Hawk into her, snapping her lines. Quick action by Captain Smith and the tug Vulcan prevents a collision. So it almost wrecked.
I guess
Before it
the
even
problem
had-
was with these ships at the time is they're so big they don't understand how to drive them.
You can't turn them. They don't corner for shit.
Well, they don't corner, and like you said, the moor with it, like there's an amount of drag in the water when you got a ship going that big. It's pulling water along with it, just like a whirlpool, but all going in one direction. So when you pass a ship like they did with the Hawk, it got caught in that drag.
And just
Plow, and then
pulls it into it.
But now
Yeah.
Smith was the captain of the. Didn't he sail the
Olympic as well.
also? So he should know that,
So
right? I mean, he's not
Smith in history is regarded somewhat as a hero because he went down with a ship.
Yes.
Yeah.
Remember
But if
he
you
said,
look at
be
his
British, boys, be British. That's what he. Yeah, as the water's coming up over his head.
right. Well, if you
That
look
may
at
be
his
a
record,
myth,
the
by
guy
the
was
way.
pretty much a dumbass. He crashed
so?
every ship he ever was on, more or less.
Now, was he the captain of the Olympic when it hit the Hawk?
I'd have to double check that, but it wouldn't surprise me. It really wouldn't
I
surprise
know he
me.
was
At least
captain of that.
He did a couple of voyages on it, yeah. Which would make sense too if they went ahead and took the old captain of the Olympic and threw it on the Titanic. If the Titanic was the Olympic, because he's used to that
Because
shit.
he knows the ship, yeah.
Yeah.
So-
I'll tell you what he looked like. Have you seen pictures of this guy?
Yeah,
I'll tell you what, he looked like the captain of. That's if you're going up to the bridge, you want your captain to look like him.
Right, yeah, he's very
that
professional
big-
looking.
He
the
looks like Sean
beard and-
Connery in Hunt for Red October. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well,
Snow
looking
White
at the
beard.
pictures of the
Yeah.
actual guy, and then remember in the movie Titanic, they did a good job casting that actor. He looks just like what the pictures of the old black and white
In
pictures.
the 1997 version.
Yeah, exactly,
I'm
yes.
thinking of the
No,
one
no.
with Brian Ahern.
No. That was in 29 or
That was Night to Remember, I think,
the
in
very
1958.
first movie they came out with. I thought about the Titanic was in 29. It was really, really recent after it. They
15 years too soon? I don't know.
I don't think so. We got 9/11
silent
movies
movie?
now.
Silent? Because there were two in the 50s came out. One like Robert Wagner was in one. I think it was just called Titanic, and the other one was called Night to Remember.
Night to
It
Remember.
came in,
I
like,
saw one late night at a hotel called Titanic.
Titanic?
Titanic. It didn't have nothing to do with with a ship, though. It was a couple. It was a weird one. Anyway,
Yeah, can you put that on our site?
Couple nice ladies.
Like
Send me a link, man.
Kiss of the Mummy we put on the other day?
Yeah, something like that. Okay, so 4 days later, after it takes off on the evening of the 14th into the 15th, the Titanic collides with an iceberg and sinks within 2 hours 40 minutes, losing over 1,500 people.
Yeah, there you are. There's your timeline.
Pretty
2
much to this
hours
day,
and
still
40
the
minutes.
largest maritime loss, isn't it?
Oh, no.
What's been bigger?
Now,
Well,
that's the largest non-wartime maritime loss.
Well, yeah.
Yeah,
Non-wartime.
Wilhelm Gustloff is a high. That was the one. That was the ship that was coming from taking all the Germans back from the refugees from Silesia back to Germany as the Russians were coming.
Sure.
And a Russian, not a U-boat. It's not since it's Russian. It was a submarine. Sank it. About 5,300 people died. It was just full of refugees and in the Baltic Sea.
How many?
About 5,300.
God damn.
See, he just knows shit like that.
Yeah, well, that's why
Wilhelm
he's been on game
Gustloff.
shows and done well.
Right. But can you imagine what that was like? If it took 2 hours and 40 minutes to sink. Can you imagine being on that ship?
The thing
what
about
the
that
hell
too
happened
is
in
it took
that
2 hours and 40 minutes to sink, but the first SOS did not go out for at least a half an hour.
Yeah, it was 35 minutes after impact that they sent the first SOS out.
Well, a lot of these people were still playing bridge, and they felt a little. Nobody could believe it would sink. So
Well,
nobody
it was touted as the unsinkable
Right.
ship. I mean, that's the way.
Well, they said it was built that two of its how many?
It had 6 watertight compartments,
Right.
2 of which could be completely full and still be fine.
And how many of them got popped?
It was
5.
5. I think.
Yeah, 5 out of the 6. So yeah, it was fucked. As soon as the guy who designed the ship, as soon as he figured out what the damage was, like
he knew.
He
Yeah,
knew
he
it was
knew.
Thomas
done for.
Andrews, yeah.
Yeah.
He was on board, obviously. The interesting thing now, what I always thought was, and Tony and I discussed this, because it happened on, I guess that was April 15th.
Yep.
And
You guys talk about it on This Day in History?
Yeah.
This Day in History podcast.com.
Right. When we weren't thank you for that that plug.
Please
that
watch This Day in History with
shameless plug.
Line of Media Live
But
podcast.
they didn't run right into the berg. They saw it in time just to hit it grazing, and that's what sunk them. If they'd have hit it head on, they would have been fine.
Yeah, I've heard that too. If they'd have ran right into it straight on, they could
No
have
problem.
survived that.
But at that
it's
time,
because
they didn't know
made
that
it quick
protocol.
all the way
it was
back.
it was too new of a thought to smash into it. It's like they say in your car, you're probably better off hitting a deer head on.
And a lot of it said that the reason why it was so not visible, like the reason that they couldn't see it until they were fucking virtually right up on it, the waters were so calm, for one, and so like there's no waves hitting the base of the iceberg.
Yeah.
So that's, there's no white water, there's no break there, you're not seeing it. And then another thing said that, this was speculation, that once an iceberg melts, it'll flip over, you know what I mean?
It can flip. You know how icebergs can flip.
I don't think so.
Big float, yeah, the shape of them changes from melting, they can completely flip, just like an ice cube.
Okay, well, possibly.
You can have an
Well,
ice cube
the
flip.
part that's in the water would be a lot darker than what would
Can
be,
be darker.
Ah,
You know what
They
I'm
can
saying?
come
So
out
that
and
would
be
be
like a
and,
beautiful blue or white or black. I mean, they can be
It's
all
not
kinds
white
of
though.
colors.
You know what I mean? Like
Green.
a
Was there a
snowy
moon that
iceberg.
night?
No moon.
Okay, it was dark.
No moon,
okay,
yeah.
darker than the
The
moon. okay.
visibility was almost 0. They said.
And I know they were trying to set a record too, so they were kind of
They were full steam ahead,
they weren't.
Well, I don't know. See, that I watched a video that was talking about that, and they disagreed that they were trying to set that record.
Oh, okay.
They knew that ship was a full 2 knots slower than the people who had made the record. Like, there was no chance. They knew there's no chance they could have did it.
Really?
Oh,
Yeah,
all
even
right.
if they would have jettisoned everything, they couldn't have picked up the speed that would have required to do that. So that's just one of those wives' tales from what I understand.
But now, if I understand, didn't they send out the wrong flare, wrong colored flare or something?
Yeah, so the theory behind that was it could have been a white flare or a red flare. The white flare means send the rescue ship to
Yeah.
like the California or whoever it was, and they set up the wrong flare and they held the ship back. But that goes along with the whole conspiracy theory that, well, J.P. Morgan also owned the ship. It was the California. Right?
Californian.
Yeah, that was going to be the rescue ship.
thought it was
Supposedly the guy was
Carpathian.
they had their ones that showed up, but the Californian was closer, and the
Oh.
guy was asleep at the radio. He went to bed.
Right.
No
And
shit.
he wasn't supposed to do that. Yeah, he said, I'm going to turn
I
in.
bet he got
Went
fired.
to sleep.
Yeah, so they could have saved a lot more because they were a lot closer than the Carpathia. But anybody that's lived in California knows, hey, dude, you go to bed, man. You don't stay up all night. So
I'm
he was
willing.
Californian.
I'm willing to make a guess here that you know these statistics off the top of your head. How many lifeboats should there have been, and how many of them were there?
Oh, I think there were supposed to be. Well, I think Andrews wanted 40 at least, and there are only 20, I think.
Something
But
like that.
Here's the interesting thing, though. These guys, the ones that were leaving at the beginning were not full. I mean, not even half full. Because,
Yeah,
like
that
I
was
said, here
weird.
Yeah,
again.
they
right?
didn't
I
put
mean,
them to capacity.
right,
They
'cause
thought they were just going to come right back. Once
Right,
they
right.
went
It's no
out,
big deal. It's
yeah,
just like
just-
drill or something. So they left with nobody
They were
on
going
them.
through the motions.
They had figured
Yeah.
that there was going to be a ship there to rescue them, like there was some sort of plan that there was going to be somebody
Right,
where they can
right.
offload these people, send them back. But
So yeah, they had capacity for more than that. That actually got away. And then toward the end, when people said, "Uh-oh, we're going down," that was women and children first, etc. And then there was the other trivia question, which is wrong, by the way, that they were the first to use SOS because it was. I think it was before that. It was CQD, right? Come quick, disaster, or something like that.
Really?
And that was but they did use SOS, but they weren't the first to use SOS.
SOS is great because it's simple.
Right.
3 long,
Dot,
3
dot,
short,
dot,
yeah.
isn't it?
3 short, 3
Dot,
long,
dot,
3
dot,
short.
dash, 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 dot, 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 right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But before that was
CQD, which
yeah.
is beep 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 beep
I don't know what that would be.
beep.
Oh, I didn't know you knew Morse code.
Yeah, we went to school together.
Okay, Marconi. But that they were not the first to use that, but one of the first. Although a lot of that maybe, some of these, and there's also people think that a lot of these ships that were around didn't use that, so they know what the hell they're talking about anyway. They're still using come quick.
Good point.
Distress.
It could be a good point anyway.
I don't know how many could have saved, because California's the one that really blew it.
Let me ask you this. So if the Californian was meant to show up, that the conspiracy is true, or J.P. Morgan or whoever had wanted this to happen, and he didn't want all the people to die, but he still wanted, and we'll get to, I guess might as well go into now the Federal Reserve part of it.
Oh, yeah.
The three guys, what were their names? John Jacob Astor.
Benjamin Guggenheim.
And what's his name? The
Isidore,
Jewish guy, Izzy or
Isidore
Strauss, I believe, yeah.
Yep.
So they were the ones supposedly against a federal bank, a central bank in the United States. So anyway, my thought is this. If he had meant to send that ship over to save those people, how would he have kept those people from surviving, those three people in general or in specific? Would he have just shot them instead? Maybe they were shot and were meant to go down with the ship. You know what I mean? They just didn't make it.
I do.
Yeah, well, I don't know. From what I read...
Well, J.P. Morgan himself was supposed to be on the Titanic.
Well, supposed to be. There's a ticket in his name.
Right, so him and 55 other first-class passengers canceled right at the last minute. He was supposed to be on there. That's shades of Larry Silverstein to me.
Who the fuck is Larry Silverstein? Shel
Larry
Silverstein's
Silverstein's
cousin?
the guy that owned the World Trade Center complex in New York that he bought it right before.
Yeah. With the
Spent the whole
insurance.
summer reworking his insurance. Supposed to be at work on 9/11. Got sick that day. His kids got sick that day. Everybody that in his family that worked in the World Trade Centers called off that day. And he owned all that.
Okay, that's exactly the goddamn same.
Yeah, exactly. So I said. So he's. Anyways, never mind. Go ahead.
Yeah,
No,
that's
you
very similar.
pretty much
Yeah.
nailed it.
Eerily similar.
So Armand, again, I'm glad that we have you here today.
right.
Give us the rundown on J.P. Morgan and the Central Bank.
you got about 3 hours.
I have
JP
I have 2.5.
Well, first, do you know how J.P. Morgan made his fortune? I mean, this guy was a real crook. He bought during the Civil War. He bought all these rifles that didn't work from the Army for $350 apiece. And then after the war, he sold them as Army surplus as if they were in perfect condition, and they're the same damn weapons for $22 apiece.
Nice.
Yeah, so he made a nice killing on that one. So his career as a bounder and a marauder were off to a good start.
I heard this quote the other day from a drug smuggler who had smuggled tons and tons and tons of weed back in the 70s. And this goes directly along with that. The secret to making money is buying by the barrel and selling by the thimble.
Yeah.
So there you go, J.P. Morgan.
Right. Well, he was perfect at that kind of thing. And so he and his dad were both, kind of, hoodwinking people and pettifoggers.
So why would J.P. Morgan be into the idea of a central bank?
Well, this is much later, of course. He's made his fortune, and he's more or less he was in the railroads. That's how he made the big money, and as opposed to the Rockefellers who made their money in oil. And they had there were the two as Rockefeller, Kuhn, and Lowe. And these guys they're all trying to take everything over. And we were talking about, I think I saw you guys watching something on the Panic of 1907,
Right.
Yeah.
which, supposedly J.P. Morgan and his banking, the Knickerbocker Trust was going under, and J.P. Morgan saved us all from this perilous.
That's what they say.
Same thing that happened in 2008,
The housing market.
So what the problem in 1907 is a lot of the banks, people were putting their money in the banks, and the banks were investing the money.
Right, in trusts.
In
They had
trusts.
trusts.
And that fucking went bad. And
Yeah, because of Morgan. See,
Right.
Morgan wanted to get his hands on what I believe was Tennessee coal and iron, because he really had a hard-on for iron. He needed this for his railroads.
Sure.
And there was a guy. What was the guy named? Hines, I believe his name was. Not
Yeah, the
Hines,
ketchup guy.
H-E-I. No, different guy. Yes, it's a common mistake among the rabble. This Hines guy wanted to get in on it too, and his only problem was he wasn't Rockefeller and he wasn't Morgan, so no way. So Morgan arranged for his whole company to what they did was it was also copper too, amalgamated copper, I believe, and Rockefeller was in on that. So what Rockefeller did was he dumped copper on the market, ruined this guy because his stock was worth $65 a share, went down like 12 in a day. Yeah. So and then Morgan knocked him out and took him over. Well, Morgan also had control of all the newspapers in New York, which helps. So this guy, Hines, a lot of the banks in New York, now this is where Rockefeller gets his, because a lot of the banks that were competition with Chase Manhattan and Rockefeller's banks were getting problems with this guy too. So they said, look, this guy's in Knickerbocker Trust and all these other trust companies, and they're heavily invested in this guy, and if they go under, you're going to lose all your money. So all of a sudden now you got to run, and this guy's just wiped out. And that's how Morgan facilitated this whole panic Because people are, if you've seen, what was it, the one with It's a Wonderful Life, where,
Right.
George Bailey gives his honeymoon money to the people, Ellen Corby, by the way, was one of them. Remember Grandma Walton?
No.
She was.
I know
she
the
was in
Waltons,
line.
but just
Yeah,
cliquely.
Grandma was in line there.
Huh.
Can I have $17.50? Sure you can. But that's James Stewart. But anyway, I don't know what was I talking about?
don't know.
Anyway,
It's hard to-
he arranges this
Right,
panic.
the panic.
And he says,
1907.
well, now the Treasury Department had $100 million on hand for just this sort of thing, liquidity, which is, if anybody's lived through 2008 knows,
Right.
okay, TARP, give him the money.
Right.
Buy him out. Well, the Secretary of the Treasury was a Morgan man, and he didn't do anything. So J.P. Morgan gave the money, and
So he was able to swoop in, save the
right,
day.
exactly.
Right.
And now, if you look at these textbooks and everything, they tell you that.
So the
he's one
idea
that
behind a
saved us.
central bank is to take that ability away from the federal government to swoop in and save the day and control.
Well, that was the premise that they used. They say, look, we can't have this happen again. So we have to have this, quote, lender of last resort. And it shouldn't be the government. It should be bankers who are independent of politics and don't want to get politics involved in this, which is the stupidest thing of all time. Because you don't want people that are duly elected to be doing this.
I agree.
You want bankers that are, out for themselves to be doing this.
Right.
And that,
Can you give us any kind of background on central banks in other countries and how they operate?
well, basically, they've all had central banks. We
Right.
didn't. Yeah,
At that point,
the
we
Bank
had
of
not.
England, which
Sure.
was, in fact, a good buddy of the first Fed. In fact, read the book Lords of Finance. I got it right in my room. I have fun with it. And
I don't want to know what that means, but
that's
carry on.
yeah, that's my life. But Benjamin Strong, who was the first governor of the Fed governor,
Sure.
was good friends with Montague Norman, Bank of England. These guys were like that, and they're both J.P. Morgan guys too, and Rockefeller guys, which is basically why we got into World War I, because Rockefeller, in fact, J.P. Morgan had the British had all kinds of bonds, like $1 billion, which
Right.
was a lot of money then.
But you can't pay that back without,
If you lose,
without an
you're
industry
not going
to
to get
back it
paid.
up.
Well,
Right.
they're going to if they lose the war, we're not going to get paid. So Woodrow Wilson, whose son-in-law was a guy named William Gibbs McAdoo, another Morgan guy. In fact, he was Rockefeller's son-in-law.
Right.
Oh, you guys saw that? Yeah, Treasury.
it's like-
Yeah, the
got it
Treasury
right here.
Secretary.
He was the guy that actually proposed the.
No, that's Senator Aldrich for the
Yeah, that's
Aldrich.
Nelson
That's
Aldrich.
Aldrich,
He's the
right.
father of
He
the federal government.
conspired
Now,
with JP
Nelson
Morgan.
Aldrich was also in there too. That's right. Aldrich's daughter was married to J.D. Rockefeller's daughter.
Right.
McAdoo was married to Wilson's daughter, Woodrow Wilson's daughter.
Man, that's
So
just-
these guys are all, and Wilson's a big Morgan guy too. So,
Oh, was he?
oh yeah, yeah. he was
Wilson's
a pawn
quoted
of the
though
Morgan.
as
so was Teddy
one,
Roosevelt.
One
by
of the
way.
worst things he ever thought he did was the creation of the federal banking system.
Well, he was in a coma anyway. He didn't even know what the hell he's doing.
Well, his problem with it was he didn't like the fact that we would eventually be indebted to a few private citizens. Eventually, all of our money is a borrow from them, which is exactly what's pretty much just happened.
That's what it is. It's not federal and it's not a reserve. So it's total. Has nothing to do
It
with
used to
federal
be that
government.
the Treasury would create enough money to. There's enough money out there for the entirety of the economy, from private economy to government spending to corporations. There was just enough money for that. Now the government doesn't get to decide that. It's the Federal Reserve that decides how much money to issue to the banks.
No, I don't know if that's right. I think what the Federal Reserve does is, like in wartime, America will sell them bonds and they'll give America a bunch of money. Is that
Well, it
not how this
depends. I mean,
goes?
that's what you call the balance sheet and all that. But basically, they've given the right to print the money
Yeah,
to the Federal Reserve.
Yeah, they have all that right.
Right, exactly, and that's what they call. There's fiscal policy and there's monetary policy.
Sure.
Fiscal is how much you spend, basically. Monetary is how much you print, and the Federal Reserve. And there's a law called the Cantillon effect, which is really neat. Basically, what it says is, if you have inflation, which is, as our old friend Milton Friedman always says, at all times and in all places, a monetary phenomenon. The people that get the money from inflation first, i.e. the bankers, because
Right.
if you print up an extra $1 trillion, which is what they've done, actually about $3 trillion the last 10 years, the people that get it first are the ones, because if the prices haven't risen yet.
Well,
They're the ones that profit the
they're
most
basically
off
the
of it.
middleman.
Exactly.
They're
Right.
the middleman.
By the time it filters down to us.
They got to put their profit on top of it.
Right.
And then again, at that, they're in charge of how much it inflates and deflates.
Sure, they can do that too, but they don't want to deflate. I mean, that's why they always want inflation.
Well, right. But if they do that in the right succession, they could basically steal all of our money
Oh,
from us.
absolutely.
And that was something Thomas Jefferson was afraid of. Actually, I'd read something about him saying that anytime you give a person or a group of people the ability to control inflation and deflation, they're basically going to bankrupt your
Given
society.
them all the power in the world. Not only that, the founding fathers had a problem with all this too. Is once you start if you say it's 1914 and you have no Federal Reserve, and Woodrow, or 1917 actually, when we declared war, and Woodrow Wilson has to go to everybody and say, look, I'm going to tax everybody 95% because we have to pay for this war.
Right.
We're not going to go to war.
Not have been away with that.
And that same goes for Bush, and that goes for the rest of these guys.
I mean,
if you have to pay for a war when you fight it, nobody's going to fight.
Well, before the Federal Reserve, though, there were no federal taxes on your paycheck. You didn't have federal taxes on your paycheck before the Federal Reserve.
Year. That was the 16th Amendment. Yeah.
Yeah.
Same year. 1913. Yeah.
Are you saying that those two things are not related?
Oh, well, of course they're related, but I mean, they had an income tax during the Civil War too. That's what the government does. Whenever they want to fight a war, sure, Lincoln taxed people too. So, yeah, that's and of course that's the progressive that time of in our history.
So let's look at it from the other side. Why would those three guys that died on the ship have been against that? I mean, what was they're more on the capitalist side where it's free market.
Yeah, I think they're laissez-faire kind of guys.
Yeah, could you give us any more insight into that?
Well, I think Astor was probably he was against it because he was in fact he was the guy, this Heinz guy was friends with Astor, and not only that, but remember I don't know if you guys ever done a show on Tesla.
Nikola Tesla? We have. Yep.
Well, Astor was going to finance Tesla because Tesla told him I can give people free energy for nothing. Well, that's kind of redundant. Free energy for nothing.
Even mentioned that he was financer of Tesla.
Oh, okay,
on the episode.
Exactly. Yeah, so that was another problem, and that ran afoul, of course, the Rockefellers. They didn't want that. But Astor was a laissez-faire kind of guy, and these guys were not. They weren't, because first of all, they wouldn't be in on it, I don't think, and they weren't bankers. This was a banker's thing, so I would think that...
so at the end of the day, it doesn't really hold water to you. That's why he would have... one of the main reasons to sink that ship was just to kill those three guys.
They were opposing them.
I'm not totally...
So you figure it's more likely that it was insurance. If there is a conspiracy, you find the insurance alone to be more likely than the people against the formation of a central bank.
I'd go with the central bank.
Really, you find?
I mean, I don't know. J.P. Morgan needed insurance. I mean, he could always scam somebody. He didn't have to sink a boat to do it.
Right? Didn't you say we're talking about a guy that bought fucking rifles and sold them as
exactly?
I mean, the guy was.
And
he
compared
could make some money
to
if he needed
compared to the power of having a federal bank, Federal Reserve, that the banker we just talked about being able to inflate, deflate, manipulate the money supply.
They have a lot of power.
Let's think about it like this.
That's more power than having political power.
Maybe the idea and the power needed to make the switch from Olympic to Titanic, it didn't need to go all the way up to J.P. Morgan. Maybe it was the leaders of the White Star Company who were just subsidiaries of a subsidiary of J.P. Morgan. Maybe at that point they're like, this is our fucking
Morgan
company.
Bought the White Star Company from a guy, and this guy's actually the one that started.
Now he's still running it.
Go down.
It could very well have been.
Company go down the drain, man.
So it didn't have to go all the way up to the top for this to still be a conspiracy.
It definitely could have still been a conspiracy.
So moving past the whole Federal Reserve part, which it's possible.
Oh,
let's talk about the differences in the ships. Unless you got something else you want to
No,
hit.
they're totally off subject.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, crow's nest cruise around Earth.
Oh, God. Go on.
Well, okay, so there were guys in the crow's nest on the Titanic, right?
In every ship.
Okay.
Since the
So you
beginning
know
of
what crow's
time.
nest is for,
Sure.
right? What's crow's nest for?
Well, they were lookouts, I assume, right?
To see over the horizon.
Yeah.
So,
See further over the horizon, right?
Yeah, obviously.
so what would be the point in that if there was no...
So nobody was there?
No, I'm making fun.
There's plenty of videos on the... Hold on. There's plenty of videos on the internet that fuck that up.
Oh, you're talking about the flat earthers?
I'm poking fun at the flat earth theory, yeah.
Hold on. I've watched plenty of convincing videos on the internet that screw the whole horizon thing over. How it's supposed to drop every 17 miles, 6 foot. There's a guy on a video, or there's a guy on a beach with the thing looking at a lighthouse over like 30 miles away, and he calculates it's up, and it's not near what it's supposed to be.
It's because he's not taking his elevation into account.
Right, the Earth isn't completely perfectly round either.
It's an oblate spheroid.
You're not going to win an argument with the flat earthers. Give it up.
Good.
No, you won't.
Give it up. It's not science. It's religion. Okay.
Yeah, basically it is. It's an indoctrinated religion.
All right.
Like global warming. Okay. So, what is? I don't know. Well, it's not the subject though. The whole when did all that emerge though? Is this something new? The flat Earth, or has that been with us? I mean, because
I thought we proved it wrong 400 years ago.
Yeah. Well, that's a misnomer. Anyway, even then, people didn't think Columbus didn't think that it was flat Earth. No, most people thought it was round. It's just much smaller. That's all. But
Yeah.
It's got a real resurgence with probably like the
that's
last
really
8 or 10
odd.
years, maybe longer.
I
don't
think
know,
what had
but I
happened
haven't-
is a few trolls got a couple arguments that were convincing enough to morons together and started pushing them out to see how many people they could get to fuck with them.
It's government psyop. I said that before. CIA, just to see how fast disinformation spreads,
and how
which is pretty fucking
and
fast.
How deep it can entrench itself.
Have you guys done a show on it?
On the
Yeah, twice.
Oh, really?
yeah,
I gotta check that out.
don't.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
How was it received?
Well, the show itself was okay. I mean, it's a dumb subject.
Flat Earth.
That's true, though. Yeah, but that would obviate the need for a crow's nest if there's no horizon or the
Right.
spherical nature
Well,
of the
and
Earth.
so that goes to see, you can see further with crow's nest.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
I don't know.
But that's an interesting addition, a fillip, shall we say, an addendum.
Addendum.
So, anything else? What else you got, E, on that?
So there's a lot of people that, like, again.
I think the gang, though. I mean, this is kind of our show. We don't have this instantaneous response, but I think most of the fans here or the listeners are going with the conspiracy about Morgan and the bank, the Federal Reserve.
I think that's the more plausible one. Don't get me wrong. The insurance isn't.
I'm sure you do it in a second.
Totally plausible. Yeah, I mean.
But this is like taking over the world versus
Exactly. This is where you really.
few million
This is where you
pounds.
need to meet on an island on Christmas
Jekyll
Eve
Island,
to set this whole thing up.
Oh yeah, give us what you know about that Jekyll Island meeting too, because there's a lot of people that think the meeting on Jekyll Island had a lot to do with the Titanic going down.
Well, I mean, if that was the whole point of that. You had a couple of guys from Morgan, you had a couple of guys from Rockefeller, Loeb, and Kuhn, and they got together. It was in Georgia, I believe, is the island. I've never
Right.
been there, but it was all secretive. Of course, nobody knew. I think they were talking about going fishing.
Seven men showed up for this meeting.
Right,
yeah.
7 people, and they basically that's where they got together and. They formulated that. There's a book on it. Is it Prisoner of Shark?
Please don't look at me and ask like,
Yeah.
is it this or that?
Well, I read it. I should know, but it's been a long time.
Yeah, you should.
Yeah, well, it was a great book. But anyway, if you want to read something, Lords of Finance is a great book, and Gods of Money.
Gods of Money.
Two good ones. Talk about Morgan and Chase and those guys, or J.P. Morgan and Rockefeller, and how they basically control the world and still do.
Oh yeah, still do.
Yeah.
Well, their families, their ancestors.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
cue the
Their
Rothschilds
descendants.
argument in 3, 2, 1,
Well,
go.
look, man, the Rothschilds rule the fucking world too.
Until the Rockefellers and Morgans came along, and England was supplanted. That was what happened in World War I. See, because the center of finance, and it's documented in these books, basically moved from London to New York.
Yeah.
And that's when it all started. Now they moved it from New York to Washington, because basically the guy that was really in charge of money was the governor of New York, the New York Fed. And he had a lot of power, and this was until the New Deal and FDR and all this came along. But then it was moved to Washington D.C., and now the Federal Reserve has a lot of the power.
Yeah, almost all.
Yeah, basically they do. And it's
crazy.
the what is it? The Federal Open Market Committee who decides. They're the ones that are talking about these FOMC
exactly
meetings
right.
and all that. They're the ones that decide the interest rate. Which, if you control the interest rate, you control the economy, basically.
Pretty much.
So,
I'm not a student of the economy, so I'm
well,
going to take your word for it.
listen, anybody that invests money, you're not worried about how much your company makes or profit margins or price earnings. You're worried about what the Fed's going to do, which is ridiculous.
Really?
Just goes to show, sure.
I guess
Because the interest rates rule.
I need to learn more about business. I should have went to college, at least for more than just computer classes. That would have came in handy, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, well, they should teach it, I think. It is.
College. Who needs it?
So back to the Titanic, Britannic, or Titanic Olympic, that whole thing.
Now, when did the Britannic come along, though? That was
were they about a month after the launch of the
because that was the
Olympic.
biggest of all, right? I think the Britannic was the biggest.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you. I don't have that fact on hand, but they ordered it about a month after the Olympic launch because they were so happy with it, how it performed.
And that hit a mine in the Aegean, I believe.
That's how it eventually went down. Right?
That was, yeah. Now, I think the Olympic was used as a troop ship during World War I.
Yeah, later on in its life, after
Yeah.
the Titanic sunk, which was probably the Titanic that was
So
used
if
for
you
the-
believe that it's the Olympic or it's the Titanic, that one was just scrapped, right? In the 30s or whatever.
Yeah, it ended of life.
Yeah, they scrapped it. But the Britannic hit a mine and during
went
World War I. Yeah, it went down. Although I don't think it was as much loss of life because they did have the, because after this, of course, they had a lot of, there was a big review and.
I'm sure their procedures got a little bit better
absolutely.
after that. Yeah.
Sure, and then they made sure that you had to have enough lifeboats. And the government's always after 1,700 people die.
Yeah, they usually rewrite the books a
Sure,
little.
they get it right. Yeah.
So here's a little something weird. The Olympic had been sent back to Belfast for repairs, after its several accidents it had. And its latest round of repairs was the week leading up to the launch of the Titanic. So at that point in time, there was the only one dry dock available for them to use for repairs and finishing the build-out on the Titanic.
They were side by side.
They were side by side, but they were also pulling them out and switching places. Like the Titanic.
To do different jobs. They were switching which dry docks each ship was pulling them out, pushing them in.
They were shuffling those ships back and forth all day long in the weeks coming up to it. And the work they were also doing on the Britannic served to make these two sister ships more like become twin sister ships. So they were changing the look of Olympic to be more updated, to look a lot like pretty much exactly what the Titanic looked like.
Were they both, 4 stacks? Is that what
yes,
they were?
Yeah,
both 4 stacks.
When you look at pictures of them side by side, they're almost goddamn identical.
I mean, the differences that we know were the personal lifeboats, the bow, the nameplates, and the carpet, and then there was the discrepancy about the porthole. But
right, so they say there was a hand-picked crew the weekend leading up to the launch of the Titanic. There was a hand-picked crew that was sent in to change over all identifying features.
One syllable too many.
Just to switch them out back and forth. And the story goes that everybody involved with that had threats on their families. Like, if you ever say a word about this, we'll kill your family.
All the surviving crew members, I think it was 200 crew members that survived the Titanic sinking. They were all taken. Like, as soon as they got back, taken straight to a place for 24 hours. All had their mug shots taken. No, dude.
Every one of them were cataloged.
Debriefing.
Yeah, I mean, it was serious. It wasn't
interesting.
It wasn't like because when you get back, they were just saved from ship. You go see your family. No. Come with us. White Star employees with us.
I'm still not quite, though. What do you guys think all this was about the switching of the ships and everything? Now, I've read about the rivets. Supposedly, they use cheap rivets.
Yeah, that's not even one of the big deals. So one of the big things is the configuration of the portholes on the front of the ship.
Yeah.
Be it two different things, the number of them. Like, there was 14 portholes on the Olympic
and 16 on the Titanic.
And 16 on the Titanic. So the 2 extra on the Titanic were supposedly from a retrofitted restroom. That those portholes were just to basically have shit and piss come out the side of the boat.
Yeah.
Gross as that is.
That's true. They added another toilet. That was the theory. They added another toilet. They added another toilet.
When you check on the blueprints for both the ships, the blueprints for the Olympic do not have it has 14, and the Titanic also has 16. But what the argument is that the Olympic actually had this modification done to it, but this is the anti-conspiracy argument, that it also had the 16 holes because it was something they figured out after they launched the ship, and it was a necessary change, and that change influenced the design of the Titanic. So that's the theory going around to explain the difference between 14 and 16 portholes in the pictures. And I don't know. Look into it if you get some time. Check out the number of portholes.
I got a little fact here, but it kind of doesn't make a whole lot of sense because it said the most common form of marine fraud is to switch the ships. I wouldn't think there'd be that much marine fraud. And has it ever happened before?
Apparently it was going on long before that and since.
Really? And since, huh?
Apparently so.
Yes, I guess that's
Well, I know. I mean, most of the marine fraud, as I recall, you insure the ship and you run it up against the ground or the rocks or whatever, and that was big business because the guy that had the ship made money, and then there were these actual guys that would come out and get all the stuff off it, and then they'd steal everything from it. So it was a big business.
It or whatever.
Clean
exactly
up
right.
crews.
Yeah, they had that.
Everybody makes money on
exactly.
it.
That was maritime fraud. That was during the 19th century, anyway.
It's a whole industry on itself.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's why, they tried to pay their captains and people well because they knew there was a lot more money being
we don't pay them well, they're going to
running the ship on the rocks and although some of the owners, like I said, they made money too. They go ahead.
They said that the one video that Everett and I watched, one of them, was that the Olympic was way more of a popular and well-known ship at the time, and had the Titanic not sank, it would have hardly been relative. Like, historically speaking, it was in the shadow of the Olympic. Like I said, I don't know how much truth was that. I didn't live back then, but that's what they were saying.
You didn't live back then?
No, not at all.
Didn't you guys had a reincarnation show?
No, not reincarnation. Did we do reincarnation? Fuck, I don't remember. Man. We did
an immortality
if you look on iTunes,
show.
There's like 100-something episodes now. It's hard to remember them all.
What about the book, the 1898 book called Futility?
Yeah, that's right. But
that's a weird one.
By a guy named Morgan, right? Wasn't it? Wasn't the guy Morgan Robertson? I think his name was.
That's more details than we write down.
yeah, I think his name's Morgan Robertson.
I don't think you get what we're trying to do here, Armand.
And according to him, apparently he saw it in a dream. He had a dream and he wrote this book. Yeah, I've read about.
He's a clairvoyant.
Yeah. That's what he claimed.
Yeah.
I don't buy it. Have you heard about the
The
mummy's
book
curse?
was about an unsinkable ship named the Titan.
Correct, yeah.
So that went on its maiden voyage and hit an iceberg.
or
and
a
sank.
transatlantic.
The implication being that maybe Morgan got his inspiration from that, right?
Yeah, somebody knew.
Yeah, he wasn't a real imaginative
It's a little
guy.
on the nose, though. You know what I mean? Titanic.
Yeah. Unsinkable ship.
Just a coincidence.
Yeah. Coincidences happen all the time. It's hard to explain that to some people, though.
Something that gets me is like when the repairs were being done. Like I've repaired metal before. I've worked as a welder and I've done fabricating and stuff. And just I try to like imagine what kind of job that was to place a sheet of steel on the side of that. And
On the Olympic when you're repairing it?
Yeah, and I mean, I wonder
Especially
how
100 years ago?
That's the thing. 100 years ago. Today, you got cranes, you got
So,
different things that could hold it up.
Could
there
you
in
give me
place. You could weld
an
it out.
estimation of how much, say, a 12 by 12 plate of 2-inch thick steel weighs?
I have no idea.
It's gotta
4
be-
by 8, 4 by 8 quarter inch is 90.
Let's
4 feet by 8
extrapolate.
inch, quarter inch 90.
So
90 pounds.
times that by 8 for an inch, times it by 16 for 2 inches. So 90 by 16 is 900.
1440.
1,500 pounds.
It's heavy.
1,500 pounds for that sheet.
A 4 by 8.
So you're looking at like 4 or 5 tons for just a 12 by 12
Right. So,
repair
and then
sheet.
we're talking 100 years ago, and now, like I said, welders have come a long way in the last 20 years. Like, and I mean, are they riveting everything? Are they not welding? Was that not?
Well,
a
apparently
thing?
they had the ability. I mean, we just don't know how they did it.
Yeah,
The
right.
manufacturing
That's what I'm
processes
saying.
are.
Not that they couldn't do it. Just
Let me blow your mind too. A few thousand years before that, these motherfuckers built these pyramids, ginormous,
For real?
huge stones. We don't know how they moved them, but they did it.
Did you ever see that
It
guy doing it
happened.
in his backyard?
Yeah, he just wobbled them.
No, it was like 20-ton stones he was moving in his
Yeah, I saw
backyard.
that.
Who?
That was a guy in Florida.
Oh.
You know, get on YouTube. It's all over YouTube right now. Actually, the last couple of days it's been on there. The last thing I have about the myths on why the Titanic sunk was the mummy's curse. Did you guys see that one?
Yeah. I see.
So what it was is there was this, I don't know, it was some princess mummy. They had like Amon-Ra, strangely named that, which is a god,
I
the
thought
sun
that was,
god.
yeah, I thought it was the sun. Yeah.
This is just where the
Okay.
theory says. Any which way, it kept passing hands from owner to owner, and every owner would basically meet a bad end.
Yeah. They'd have to.
So eventually, it just sat in a warehouse. They couldn't get anybody to buy it. This one guy eventually buys it and uses the Titanic to ship it to New York, and it never made it. It was one of the
It was a curse.
one of the few pieces of one of the things on the ship that just went down with it.
Well, sort of same thing with Tutankhamun. You know, supposedly all the people that were involved with that met these untimely deaths.
With the opening of his sarcophagi or his
yes.
tomb. Yeah.
Yep, that was it. Mm-hmm.
Same thing with the movie, The Mummy.
But not the
He
mummy's
whoever
kiss.
breaks the seal will be met with the plagues.
Not the mummy's kiss.
Now, The Mummy's Kiss was a porn. Armand and I both have
Everybody
seen
that
recently.
opened the mummy's
They
tomb
watched
had
it
an orgy.
together earlier in a room with a closed door. I don't know what the hell.
It was
happened.
a critique session.
Oh, is that what it
We're
was?
considering starting our own business.
Ah.
Porn critique. It's another podcast, actually.
Don't ask me to film.
It's a mystery science theater /porn type of podcast. We're going to do
Oh,
it
so
on
you guys just
YouTube.
sit
Kinda
there and
cool.
see the back of your heads.
Yeah, and we talk about porn and
you're
make
like,
funny-
Wow, look at that. What
That's
do you
actually
know?
that's actually not horrible.
That's not bad.
That's not bad. We're not going to do that though.
All right. Well, let's ask the people out there if that would be something they'd be interested in.
I'm sure a good couple of them would be into that. For the most part, probably not.
So if we arrived at it, would I think are we going to leaning toward the J.P. Morgan?
I'm leaning
conspiracy.
towards the Federal Reserve.
Yeah.
See, I'm going to do what I do with
not
almost
saying
every
that
other
the
topic we
insurance
have. I'm not
company's
going to make a decision either which way. It could go either way. It could have been coincidence and it just sunk because people fucked up.
Hey, they could have hit a fucking iceberg, and they sank.
There's a bunch of circumstances that led to the deaths of 1,500 people. I mean, who's to say if somebody was purposely at fault or just because they were inept or what?
There are some very interesting questions.
That
though.
captain was sure inept. We can be sure of that.
Yeah.
The fact that he knew there was ice in the waters ahead, that he didn't slow down the ship at all or even make a course correction.
What?
That's weird.
Like an arrogant prick. You know what I mean?
You know
Like,
all about that, yeah.
Oh, hear this.
Now you don't think he
Personal
was in on
thoughts.
it, do you? Because I mean,
I
he went
think the
down
guy
with the
was too
ship and
stupid.
everything. So
Yeah, I mean,
that's really a company man if he did.
yeah, I mean, what are you going to pay the guy? All right, we'll give you $10 million after this is over.
Well,
Got to go
he's
down with the
talking
ship, though.
I think he's kind of over the hill anyway. Maybe,
Yeah, he's an
maybe
old
his
man.
family was well taken care of,
Could have been.
like Frankie Pentangeli.
Frankie.
Yeah. Anyway,
Who ordered his assassination?
Well, they didn't order. They remember they talked to. Remember they talked about how the Romans used to take a hot bath,
that's
open
right.
a vein. Yeah, but
Godfather. I need to rewatch
yeah,
those.
Frank Pentangeli.
Anyway.
what's his name?
What do we-
Michael V. Gazzo. played him.
Have you seen the? They have the Godfather. What do they call it? The
Saga.
Yeah, where it's like 7 hours
Gee,
long.
Yeah, I don't have time for that. Yeah.
Me either. I'd love to, but I don't.
I don't want to see
time.
3. I really,
You never seen 3?
No, I've seen it, but I don't want to see
Was
it
it?
again.
Yeah.
You know, after what Vincent kills those 2 guys in his room, that was the only part I liked. And he killed Joey Zaza. That wasn't bad.
Joey Zaza. Huh?
Yeah, Joe Montana, remember? Came up to him on horseback.
No, I don't remember.
Am I giving
dude.
this away?
I've only seen Godfather 3
Spoiler.
one time.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert.
And really, the only thing I remember is the ending on the steps.
Yeah, it's a little too operatic for me.
Yeah, it was a little weird.
But, 1 and 2, and all the outtake material, too, you know?
Shit that they didn't use.
Yeah, so...
All right, well, that's enough of this fucking.
So what Titanic movie would we espouse? I would say Night to Remember is my favorite.
Yeah, Titanic, I guess James Cameron's version.
All I'm gonna say is, why didn't she let him?
How about
on
some of
piece
the
wood?
the OG?
There was room on that piece of wood.
Yeah, she should have let him up. And she
Bitch.
never let go. Well, that went out the window pretty quick.
Right, never
I'll
let
never
go.
let go in the next 2 minutes, Chad.
Yeah. Can't
I don't
stand
know.
it.
I would say my favorite Titanic is something the History Channel might have done in the 90s before they went all Pawn Stars on us. But that's almost a political statement. I'll leave that alone.
You were
what
talking
are we
about a
doing next week?
How
documentary.
you rate it?
You got this show? 5.
7.
7?
Wow.
Because of Armand.
Well, yeah,
Oh,
Armand does
thank you.
increase. Our performance 5, Armand
5,
about a
Armand.
9.
Oh,
9. Armand was a
well,
9. We were 5.
Listen, get me going.
I
on
might
the
even been a
Federal
4.
Res- Federal
Could have been a
Reserve.
10 if you went and got all pervy.
If you'd have left the porn out, it would have been a 10.
I can't resist.
I don't blame you. I have
I'm
trouble
so
myself.
lonely.
I'm so lonely. Do you remember did you ever see Team America World Police?
No, bits and pieces.
You
I
ever
never
seen
watched
it?
the whole thing.
It's the Marionettes movie about the.
Oh, okay, yeah.
There's this scene where Kim Jong-il sings a song. It's so racist, but it's "I'm so lonely," but he's "I'm so lonely, so lonely and all alone."
No, that's the old man, not the new
Right.
guy.
Yeah, but
Kim
it was
Jong-un.
fucking hilarious.
For whatever reason, that just reminded me of South Park.
Well, that's who did it.
And
Oh, come
the
on,
devil.
guy. Come on, get on top of my penis, guy. Fucking Saddam was great in that too.
Yeah, it was
God
good.
damn it, Saddam, you just don't understand me. Fucking Satan.
Well, now wasn't that? How about was it one of those Leslie Nielsen? Was it one of the where he beats up all the Muslim, Saddam Hussein and
Oh, that was Hot Shots.
was it Hot Shots? Okay,
Yeah.
that was a pretty funny scene.
Yeah,
All right, so
I love it. All right,
so you guys don't know what you're gonna do next week, then, huh?
Not yet. Any ideas? It'll be Eric's last show not being a part officially of the Lineup family. I don't know
It'll
if
be
you've
my
heard
last
yet.
show.
What?
Yeah.
So
Break it out.
September
You going to a
11th.
rival network or something?
No.
Nope, not actually at all. He's actually completely joining our network as an employee. He will be
We're
joining.
gonna have to pay this guy?
He's going to be joining.
Oh, I object to that. No.
He's going to be joining me over at UGC and helping me out on that project. So
Wow.
Yeah. Excited. No more hazardous waste for me.
yeah,
Well, it's good. That's what I've done for the last 10 years is
I
hazardous
know.
waste. And yeah, I mean, I can get out of that and yeah, I'm with it.
Yeah,
It's gonna be
there's
great.
we've got some noxious fumes in this place too, but it's
it's pretty good around here.
handmade. Yeah, don't go in the bathroom at certain hours. Let me tell
I
you.
was telling Everett, I was like, the biggest difference for me is going to be like, because I go, I'm and it's not.
Oh, I'm
like
going to keep you at
type
that
of deal.
No, I'm going to keep you at that kind of pace.
Good. Yeah,
Don't worry.
because
I thought
that's
you
where I'm
said
at.
go by the bathroom. What?
No,
No,
like
nothing to
Oh,
do
you
with
mean
that.
you're?
I just constantly work. Like when I'm at
Oh
work,
no!
boom,
yeah.
boom.
See,
Yeah.
I don't think I like him. He's gonna make us all look bad.
Yeah. No, I'm
We're
going
gonna slow him down. Give him a
Dude.
sedative.
That's what I told him. I said that's gonna be the worst thing
keep
about
my
working
guys
here is because I'm
moving.
gonna be sitting here going like this.
I'll give you some Valium. We'll slow
Anyway,
you down.
we'll
All
figure out what
Hit
we're
me by
doing.
the show, Armand. Shit.
We may or may not announce it on the group.
Well, then you
I
can
don't
come
know.
on this day in history with us then too.
sure can. I won't
Because
be
I always
able to
ask him. He doesn't
I
want to come.
actually, well,
He's
I
too
do.
busy.
I
Oh,
just
I
did it
will.
last week,
Yeah,
didn't I?
but
Or a
you
week
were-
before?
Yeah, but that's
Yeah,
because
well-
Tony was out.
They made me president and COO of a company. I've gotten a lot more things going on. So
Oh, really? You have your own division then?
yeah, UGC. That's my thing now.
Oh.
That room over there where I've been sitting for the past couple months. It's because I'm running a company.
Why don't you
over there.
hire me too?
It's because I'm running a company. Over
All they
there.
do is play video games.
That's just categorically false. We're going to end this episode now.
All right. Okay.
My wife is watching. God damn it.
All right. I have no idea what's going on in that room. I'm sure.
Speaking
you're
of the group,
very
though,
laborious.
we do a lot of laborious things over there. Speaking of the group, though, join our group, facebook.com/Surreal Talk group. I'm not even going to touch on some of the drama that's going on lately. Make the group great again. You know what I mean? MGGA. Make
Yeah, I
the
saw
group
that was a
great
rather
again.
ominous post you had today.
Man, there's
I
been
was-
some
I was-
real
I didn't know
Some
if I wanted to come.
dickheads.
Okay, I didn't know if
There
I
has
wanted to
been.
come in.
No.
All right, I didn't want
Yeah.
to talk about the drama, but there's been some real people who, you know what the term woke means in the conspiracy crowd? Whenever you're woke, that means
You've opened your eyes.
you've
to-
seen everything how it really
you're
So
is.
it's
awake,
literally,
you're
yeah.
woke.
You,
Well,
okay.
every now and then we get a couple motherfuckers in there who are just way too woke.
Oh.
To the point where if you're not woke, you're asleep, and we're going to tell you about it.
Yeah, and if you don't agree
They
with
get
everything
really
they have to
militant.
say, then you're just a shill, or you're like some,
Yeah, a
and they
pawn.
insult you. And
So
it's
if you're going to
just-
join the group and do that, we're going to kick you the fuck out. Just saying right now.
we promote good discussion.
And we
You
got
know
these
what I mean?
crazy motherfuckers that are throwing gifts at everything left and right.
Yeah,
too.
we got a whole GIF army. So come to the group and talk some shit.
GIFs?
They'll GIF the fuck right
GIFs?
out of you.
So animated gifs, which are just pictures that are like, but they're relevant to the discussion. You might have one of like the guy the other day was pissing me off, so I posted one that was just a picture of a guy with a middle finger right in his fucking face, like
I
that.
think I saw that. Yeah. I was wondering who that was directed at.
Yeah, just some asshole being an asshole.
Well, you guys see now you have a very big audience, so you're going to get that.
yeah.
You know,
You're gonna get that, but
lunatic
But
fringe.
the problem is we've had a really good atmosphere,
It's
and
a
we're
good
not,
song.
and we're
Red Rider,
unwilling.
right?
Oh yeah, Red
Yeah.
Rider, very
Lunatic
good.
Fringe.
That's what I'd be your theme song.
Oh,
Man.
it should be, right? I fucking love
It's a
that
good jam.
song.
It's got a good build up. But
Yeah,
the
yeah,
problem,
the prelude. Yeah,
the problem has been since we started that group, it's had a great atmosphere, and lately we've had a bunch of people coming in who give no two fucks about that atmosphere and only care about some sort of agenda pressing the flat Earth or anti-vax or whatever. They just get in there. And,
everybody's got their one conspiracy.
and it's
that
always
they-
the ones, the hardest to believe ones, like flat Earth or anti-vax. They just come in there and hardline and shit all over everybody who doesn't go along with whatever they believe. And we're more of a free discussion.
yeah. We're trying to nurture camaraderie and
or conversation. If you want to believe flat Earth,
intellectual
cool.
And hey,
debate.
we're not saying don't disagree with anybody. We're just
Right,
saying don't
right.
call him a stupid fucking retard
Wow,
because
they
you
get-
don't agree with
they
it.
get a
Oh,
little
it's people are
See,
crazy.
now that's a logistical fallacy. That's an ad hominem logistical fallacy. We have to call them on that.
We will.
As opposed to
We're gonna get
post hoc
pitchforks.
propter. Is it post hoc ergo propter hoc?
Yeah, it's Proctor Hop.
fucking language you speaking?
That's Latin.
Latin. Latin.
Right.
It's from the Latin.
From the Latins.
Take Latin.
It basically means since one thing came after the other, it was
Ixnay on
caused
the
by the
atmale.
other.
Ah.
That's I've got a whole book on logical fallacies. That's a lot of fun too.
got a book
I'll lend
on
it to you guys
everything.
if you like.
Yeah.
I got a
You
real
have-
neat one on
When
probability.
you die, we're going to create the Armand Memorial Library and just stock it with all your books.
No, I think he should be one that would be a good candidate for artificial intelligence, like to upload your consciousness into a computer.
Don't tell him that.
Why not? I mean,
Can you imagine
live
Armand
on forever?
without a body, and now with a brain that can move
He'd
at
be
the
so
speed that he
pissed.
wants?
You know, he's
Have you ever
already-
seen Lawnmower Man? I'm not saying he starts out as dumb as Job, but the same kind of thing is going to happen. You give him that kind of power and the ability to branch out like that, he's going to be opening up gateways he ain't supposed to be in right before you know it.
I should have been a Bond villain.
Should have been.
Goldfinger, man.
Still time. Anyway,
All right.
time?
that's it for this show this week.
Yeah, for sure.
Patreon.com
All right,
slash
thanks for
Surreal
having me.
Talk, fucking blah, blah, blah.
Hey,
Fun.
thanks for
Amazon.
coming on,
Fun.
Armand. You're great. Always
again.
definitely full of useful information, and we
bet,
love having you on
anytime.
the show.
We
Thanks,
love
everybody.
you. Well, they love you. And
I love them.
Yeah.
Check out Armand's show, thisdayinhistorypodcast.com.
Have a good day,
Him and Tony
cocksuckers.
Hubert every day. They go on and talk about the shit that happened today, some other day in history. But today.
Yeah,
So what's
this
today?
day, but
September
like
something?
before.
Is it September yet?
Yeah, second.
September 2nd in other years.
It'll be the 4th, Monday.
Mondays will be the 4th. So check that out. All right, anyway. Catch you guys all next week.
All right.
Thanks again, dude.
Oh, good show.
Yeah, thanks, Armand. AI equals Armand intelligence.
Yeah, he's a pretty smart guy. Okay. Exporting the episode.
Is that right?
Yeah.
We off the air?
No, we're on the air still.
We're not live though. I mean, we're live, but we're not
not
recording. Yes. Cool. Oh, I didn't think it was too bad.
Yeah, it was okay. I didn't really dig the topic.
You didn't dig the topic?
That's just me.
What do you want to do, Princess Diana or something next week?
God fucking damn it.
I said, Lord, no. What do you want to do?
I don't know.
I was thinking we could convert ourselves to Catholicism right on the show next week. We'll do baptisms and.
I wish I knew somebody we could do a real possession or some sort of like real let's talk to ghosts. Get somebody in here and do a real seance.
So the problem with that is there ain't really fucking ghosts.
You don't know that though.
No, you're right. I don't. But
And I don't know that. I figure 99% sure that there's no ghosts, but you never fucking know, man. We don't know. We think electricity is the only way you can power shit. There may be other ways, other grid types of power to make electronics of other sorts work. We don't know how consciousness works.
no, at all.
We don't know this shit. So you can't say that there's no ghosts, that ghosts aren't just living in another reality
my
slightly
life,
off this one.
There's no ghosts in my life.
Day to day.
Yes.
But everything we talk about, there's no Kennedy in your life. He got
Well,
shot,
that's
but
true
he's
too.
not in your life.
Yeah, that's true too.
So,
But that
reason
doesn't
we
mean I'm not going to
discuss
talk
it-
about ghosts.
That's exactly right.
Well, I'm fucking just because I don't know any ghosts doesn't mean I'm not going to talk about one.
That's good. Very good. Very good. Let's see. Do H.H. Holmes. Yeah, I want to do that during next month, the Halloween run.
Oh yeah, we'll have a good.
We need to start thinking about Halloween.
Yeah,
Too.
but we got an out of town week in Halloween, and it's my anniversary week in.
So, you say this now, October 21st. That's a Saturday.
Yeah.
Not likely going to be a show. We're going to be in Mobile, Alabama, doing a Overwatch tournament with UGC.
Yes.
If you are near the Mobile area, it's going to be a 3v3 Overwatch tournament. So it's a little different than your normal competitive scene. We're going to be doing it on Xbox, which again is normally a PC game, but this is the first major live Xbox Overwatch tournament. We actually have support from Blizzard, which is cool.
Which are the developers of the
Which
game?
is the developers of the game. Not a lot of that going on. They weren't really wanting us to do anything PC, but Xbox on the other hand. Interesting enough. All right, enough of that crap. We'll talk to you guys next week. See you in the group.
Yeah.
Sorry, I haven't been on there lately. I've been too busy playing
here's a
video
new-
games during the day.
Here's a
apparently.
new thing for the group. Just random facts that are true that no one else really knows. Let's make that a little theme for the next few days.
What are you talking about? Just post random facts?
Post random facts of shit that's true that you
God
don't.
damn it! You know what you've just done?
Yeah,
You know what kind of facts we're gonna get now?
good ones.
I take this back. I take Eric's call back.
No, I want to hear some random shit that I don't really know. You know, I mean, I like doing that. I'll do that on Facebook from time to time. Like, hey, could someone tell me some random shit that I don't know?
Yeah. Well, you ready?
Yeah.
Cool. All right, everybody. Catch you next week.
Later.